honestly, I think when I was watching the last series in the back, I think No Girls Allowed actually played quite cleanly. Of course, as Tettles mentioned, there could be some route optimizations, but you'd expect that from the two teams coming up, you're going to see some pretty spectacular play. However, both Method teams have had a bit of slip up here and there. It seems to be becoming norm. You'll have a wipe once in a while on the dungeons between these two teams.
Once in a while, I'd agree on that one. Twitch chat certainly has got the favor for Method EU onto this one, but we can't count NA out as we're getting started with game number 1 in Atal'Dazar, by the way, which Method NA was dominating on in that time trial run, number 1 so far.
Number 1, and you know what, Jack? One of these two teams is going to win this match. Woo! Method and EU right off the bat, straight up to the Western Terrace here towards Priestess Alun'za. I mean, typical start to the dungeon. We see this all the time. No Bloodlust commitment because I'm assuming they're going to use their Bloodlust coming up for Priestess Alun'za with a massive pull in front of the boss. Now, if I recall correctly, last time we saw Method EU do this, which was 2 weeks ago, Gingy went downstairs to try and grab that pack from the bottom of the stairs and then died on the way because of the fire. So I wonder if they're going to try to repeat that strategy when they get there.
Yeah, I assume they're going to do it again because something like that, I mean, he just used his cloak too early, right? That was just a player mistake. Now, Sally actually having some trouble here as one of the casts went through that spawns those circles on the ground, those swirlies, the fire swirlies. And Sally has to stand on his ledge to be able to prevent the Juggernauts from charging. So it doesn't actually have a lot of room to dodge out of that. So a lot of damage on her group. As you can see, Sally doing 70k HPS. But that was really just because some interrupts didn't go through of the team.
Yeah, no, a bit of sloppy play there. Mastered coming in on the side of Method and A from JB as they run right up the stairs past the Construct right now and head over into Priestess Alun'za's room. So typical play from both teams right now. Method and A slightly ahead, honestly just because of that small slip up. So it put a bit of stress on Method EU, but no casualties on either side. Here comes the big pull right now for Method and A and Method EU following suit. Both Bloodlust popped on either side right now. They are DPSing everything on Priestess Alun'za's stairs, making sure to keep that Enchanted Emissary out of the pack and trying not to let the Juggernaut get too many charges in.
Yeah, we're going to see some insane pulls. You can see Sally actually dropping really low. The Quaking, it's just because he has a disease. Mara's actually going down. They do have one battle rest available, but Sally is struggling so much. And this disease cannot be dispelled because Maris was dead this whole time. Now he finally got a global to rest him back up. But Maris does not have the blood debuff from the pools on the floor. So the boss actually healing a little bit off of Maris here. At least not getting the damage from all 5 players. So definitely a little bit of a mistake here, costing him quite a bit. You can see that HP difference between Method and A and Method EU on the boss, 10% now, just because of this Maris death.
Yeah, bit of a shaky start here for Method EU right now. We did have Shakib just proc his cheat death, but he is on the rogue this time, so won't have the same woes as Shakib Drunk had yesterday on his Unholy DK. Managed just to stay alive right now. Yoda ticking down as well as we get another, or the second transfusion, probably the penultimate transfusion cast from Priestess Alun'za. The Honor Guards and of course the Augurs have been pulled from downstairs that we were mentioning earlier. On Method and A side and on Method EU side. Weird, they have the exact same strategy. How peculiar at the same time in the fight. So everything was pulled from downstairs, this time not with the major pack though, so it seems that they've kind of split it into 2 to play it a bit safer. Really no major loss doing this as long as they're able to control it. The Emissary of Tides certainly having no significant impact on the boss anyways. Final transfusion coming in here for Method and A as they head down the stairs and prepare to move across the bridge, likely jumping down into Razan's pit. Method EU just a bit slow here, does finish off the boss now, a few seconds behind Method and A though. And they have that one death too. And
Gingy actually proccing his cheat death while he was getting that pack again. So thankfully, he had a cheat death available because I believe he got hit by the fire again when he pulled those. But yeah, Method EU a little bit behind, as you mentioned. And in the time trials, both of those teams were really close. 3 seconds between them. Method and A got first place though. So they are the ones who have the faster strategy in theory. It's only 3 seconds. But I remember them talking back and forth on Twitter because Method EU had this really fast Tolagor strategy and Method and A had the really fast Atal strategy. So they were just saying that they constantly just have to try to beat each other, and just so insane how fast both of those teams are. As Method and A is jumping down, fighting with Zan already, Method EU following suit, but just a little bit behind.
just a little bit behind here. We already saw the bleed on Razan here hits like a Tonka truck. Razan in Tyrannical, especially on an 18, and well, obviously even higher, actually does a pretty substantial amount of damage. You can see both tanks respecting that nerf, rotating his personal CDs every time that bleed debuff comes up. That not only chunks you hard, but puts an armor debuff on you as well. So he's already rotated through his shield wall and his last stand. I believe JB still has Bark Skin available, so wouldn't be shocked to see that played next. Not sure why they didn't start with the Bark Skin so that it's back up by now, but nonetheless, that doesn't matter. Razan 60% now, and Razan 80% for Method EU. Both teams sitting at similar trash, 48% for Method NA, 46 for Method EU, but of course Method EU have the Emissary on top of the boss there, so pretty equivalent percent. Nerf dropping so low there, and no Bark Skin being used by JB, so that was a pretty dangerous right there.
Hey, that's the Quaking, really. I mean, on top of having the bleed from the boss, which does do a lot of damage, the Razan bleed, and then just having unfortunate Quaking timings can definitely cause some trouble on bosses. We can see a random death occur if you have some boss ability overlap with Quaking, so you definitely want to watch out for that in the future. Nerf just barely surviving there. Method EU now also getting this Emissary of Tides on top of the boss, so they're really just mirroring the strategy. They're just running the exact same strat. Method NA just doing it slightly faster. And Nerf dropping so low again.
I don't know why they're not using their Barks yet. It's the only super dangerous thing in this fight for a tank.
Iron Bark is used.
Oh, it's his Iron Bark. I'm going insane, man. It's his Iron, but it wasn't on CD there either. It's right next to it, right? It's that white hand icon.
No, it's below. It's next to the Master Root at the bottom. Left to Master.
Oh.
It's hard to see when it's grayed out.
Yeah,
really
I have to lean in really hard to see that. Okay. Okay, I was going inside. I was like, why is he not using his Barks? And then I remembered it was Iron Bark. Apparently I had too many pretzels during the break. Razan here, 12% and 39% for Method EU. Nerf tank with one last bleed in the fight. You know, it's really interesting, speaking of the tank bleed, to see the stability over on Method EU side. Now did not have shield wall to rotate through any of his CDs. It just came up now. I'm not sure if he's going to commit to it, but now never really, even with a Quaking overlap that you were mentioning, now never even dropped below like 70-60% HP. Nerf yo-yoed twice and almost fell over. So just a bit more attention paid to Xellia, or at least paid from Xellia, or at least more, kind of premeditated attention, knowing that that damage was coming in.
Yeah, we see Method NA already done with Razan. They're on their way to do this next pull. We've seen some very interesting strats in Atal come out of Method NA as they did these huge snapping pulls, which is something we're probably going to see right here. You can see Yoda just off to the side, pulling the middle pack on top of Nerf with tricks to the trade. Now, this snapping, we've talked about it many times. If you go on a specific position where the mobs can't reach you, they will just teleport on top of you, and this is what they're making use of here. They're so efficient, especially in Atal'Dazar, just because it's such an open dungeon, everything is so spread out. So if you have the tricks to the trade on the tank and you can just have multiple packs be pulled on top of one spot, just very efficient.
The only problem with this pull here is the Dynamancer that they pull on top of it is a ranged mob that is not interruptible. Outside of her Dynamancer buff, but outside of that, she just shoots a bow or a gun. So you can't really grip her or do anything to her once she's there. So when you jump off, you actually run a pretty high risk on her specifically of having her evade bug. We actually saw that on one of the teams yesterday. Fortunately, it did work out for them, but she just sat there for 5 seconds. It was a pretty close call. Method NA probably knows this, so it looks like they're opting to just finish her off there, not risk jumping back onto the main platform before they finish that mob off. And she goes down right now. Kisho has been killed. They're probably just going to finish everything here. There's no reason not to. It localizes all of the explosives. Quaking is a bit dangerous, but the rogues sit on the edge anyways. And then there's no Sanguine to play either. So looks like they're just going to clean everything up nice and easy. Method EU, the same thing here. They're falling behind trash percentage a bit. They're doing the exact same pull here, but Method NA has pulled even further ahead now.
Yeah, and Method NA, first they were snapping the middle pull on top, and then once they had it a little bit lower, they were actually snapping even more on top. We saw Shakib just run off in the middle of the pull and just getting some more Sky Screamers on top. So very well done. They got a lot of percentage from this very specific middle pull. They are 81% already. Method EU still trying to finish off this middle pack, as Method NA already onto the next area here. They also pulled the 2 Stalkers. Okay, yeah, so this is a very, very common pull we see a lot with the Stalkers and the Witch Doctors. Lots of things that we need to interrupt here.
Yeah, lots of things that we need to interrupt, but this is not going to be the remaining 19% that they need for the dungeon.
No.
In fact, I don't even know if it's enough to put them to that 97-98% required for only 1 remaining Sky Screamer. So we'll see exactly what it puts them to. There's 6 mobs in here. They each give just slightly over 2%. I believe they're all equivalent. So Method NA should be in the mid-ish 90s to high 90s. So yeah, it'll be about 95 93. Okay, so actually even lower 90s. So they'll have a bit to deal with after the boss here. 7% worth of trash. Method EU dealing the exact same pull. I believe they'll actually be at 95% once they're done with this. Vol'kaal has been engaged here for Method NA. Neither team has Bloodlust available because they popped it at the same time on Alun'za and likely will be using it again on Yasma, the final boss of the dungeon when they get there. First phase, we of course know the reanimation totems have to all be killed at the same time. Now, Vol'kaal, like Alun'za, Nagurio's mentioned, were two bosses that were honestly a bit of a snooze fest, but they were buffed in 8.2 to be a lot more dangerous.
Yeah, so they do more damage now, especially Vol'kaal. He also does a little bit less damage to himself, so it takes a little bit longer. And we also have, we saw Zal actually proccing this stuff, so that's probably something he didn't want to do. I'm not completely sure if he just dropped too low or something definitely happened here. Not sure what. JB still has the stuff available to him. And I mean, look at Method NA. They have such a clean run so far. They're so incredibly fast. I mean, both of those teams are playing the same strategy, and the strategy is definitely already insane in itself. But to be able to execute it this properly and just having zero deaths, just very good job by Method NA. They even have, they have all the battle rests available. They have all the safety nets still to them. They will have the Bloodlust as well for Yasma. So they have some safety nets in case something goes wrong. But Method E is really close behind, so they don't really want to make any mistakes.
Yeah, certainly both teams are out to play today here. That one death, though, it might, I mean, they're already slightly behind, but the extra death of 5 seconds of how well and clean Method NA is playing right now might just be the final nail in the coffin for Method EU on this map. Vol'kaal now down to 60% for Method NA and 85% for Method EU as both teams just move around the edge, getting all their damage in as much as they can. The healers trying to output as much damage. We know they're both very offensive players, at least as much as they can, so they've used any externals. This time they did use the Iron Bark, as we heard. Listen, all right, I'm allowed one brain fart once in a while. Give me a break.
Twitch chat disagrees.
Twitch chat always disagrees, though. Method EU, 63% versus 34 on Method NA. And I mean, there's, as long as they stay away from the gate when the boss dies here, as we all know, because those gates fall down right away. You don't want to proximity aggro the rest of the mobs. They do have 2 rogues, and you can mass stealth out. This boss, yeah, it hits harder, but nothing else really mechanically is developed for it. You just still kind of move around in a circular or triangular pattern around the room until it's dead.
Yeah, so we actually saw one team use the Bloodlust here to the surprise of Tyrannical. He was not happy about that one because we mentioned before that this boss just slowly kills itself, so Bloodlust not the best usage here. Maybe it was a safety kind of thing because of the buff and the boss doing more damage, but it should not be a problem for those healers to heal. You can see JB and Sally both still doing approximately 15k DPS to the boss while still keeping the whole group alive, so it should be fine. As Method NA finished off the boss, no problems there. They're gonna skip this trash again, so again, they have 7% trash left that they have to do. A little bit less than Method EU. A little bit more than Method EU, sorry. So, not sure what exactly they will pull. Probably pull something on top of the last boss because their trap times is 14:45. So they only have 2 minutes 45 left, which the last boss is probably going to make up.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Pull what, right? The Emissary of the Tides is here, and I believe that's about 2-ish%. They still need 2 more mobs about in there. Yeah, Sky Screamer, but they need 2 Sky Screamers, right? And they pull the Emissary of the Tides. Why would they pull a Sky Screamer and Emissary of the Tides? Method EU has 95%, so they likely need 2 mobs from somewhere. Zalia's run over. He started the RP, and he's immediately gotten back in stag form. As we can see now running off, he does pull one of the Sky Screamers, 2 of the Sky Screamers. So there's the remaining 2 mobs that Method EU needs. Hopefully somebody watches them so they interrupt for the fear. Method NA has an Emissary of the Tides, and they're just missing 2 mobs. I don't think I saw them pull anything. They might have pulled the 2 Sky Screamers as well. Nonetheless, they are halfway through their Bloodlust here on Yasma right now, cleaving down that Emissary of the Tides. Method EU following suit, pulling the boss, and immediately popping their Bloodlust as well.
Yeah, I assume there has to be a Sky Screamer somewhere. Maybe that's why JB is running Mastered. I'm not completely sure. In theory, they could be seeing 2 of them because one of them can be hibernated and the other one can be paralyzed from Lighty. So there's definitely the possibilities to see them, but Method EU, they have 1 Sky Screamer already. They're cleaving it down with the boss, so they already have 1. That does not make up 5% either, though, so they definitely need something else as well on top of this. As if you look at the damage, Method NA obviously pulling the boss quite a bit faster than Method EU, so therefore they are 10% ahead damage-wise. Look at the damage meters. I mean, still pretty even. of course, the Sky Screamer will boost their damage a little bit on Method EU stats because of the cleave.
Yeah, I mean, they killed one last Sky Screamer, Method EU here. They're still missing one mob's worth, whether it's, an Augur or a Sky Screamer. They did still have the double Sky Screamer, one on each perch in the middle area. I'm not sure where it is. I'm not sure if they used a longer crowd control on it, like a Paralyze, and then it's going to just join the fight a bit later or something. I guess we'll see in a moment. Hopefully they didn't miscount their percent. I doubt that they would, seeing how fast these two teams have run. Method NA with the 95%, about to be 97 from that Screamer. On the side, yeah, and then we can see the second Screamer in the corner on Method NA. Okay, so they did actually pull both Screamers. I think Method EU has their second one crowd controlled in the corner as well, if I saw it properly. So they did indeed pull both Sky Screamers. I just didn't see who did it on Method NA. I suppose it was off camera. So percentage is accounted for. 8% difference between the two bosses in favor of Method NA, and of course that one death. So once again, barring any unforeseen circumstances, Method NA should be taking this one.
Yeah, I mean, look at the time. Look at how crazy these teams are and how fast they are. I mean, this is an Atal'Dazar on Tyrannical on a plus 18, and they're going to be finishing this dungeon in less than 15 minutes approximately. So just insane speed by both of those teams. Not completely sure. It seems like Method EU actually did not pull the last Sky Screamer. We saw an observer view there. There was a Sky Screamer with a cross marker. They probably forgot to pull it or it reset somehow. But, I mean, in the end, even if they had the Sky Screamer there, they still would have lost because Method NA just has a complete perfect run. And they're still slower than they were in time trials. So they had an even faster run in the time trials.
I mean, that's weird. Like, you can see Xaylia running off desperately now, trying to grab it. I could have sworn I saw now weapon throw both of those Sky Screamers when they were in the middle of the room. So it is totally possible they just reset for whatever reason. But that wouldn't have mattered because Method NA with a pretty much perfect run here, Jack.
Very strong run by Method NA. I think what happened was, as far as I remember, Naguri, you're not able to mount up onto another druid if you're in combat yourself.
Yeah.
So I think now ended up pulling it, and I think he was trying to get aggro onto one of the rogues who was sprinting. Make sure that he gets aggro, then he shadow melds, mounts up on Xaylia, and then runs up the stairs. Something along those lines.
Maybe, yeah. That's possible.
I did see him throw, and then immediately started hopping onto Xaylia, and I didn't think that you could do it if you were in combat.
Yeah,
so
no,
pretty sure that's what ended up happening, but Tettles, great run here by Method NA.
Dude, we were talking in the back. I feel like this dungeon is just pretty much as optimized as you can be on an 18, just with how quickly both of these teams are running it. They pull all of the trash into Priestess Alun'za, which is a very, very daunting task for both teams, but they do it expertly. And then they do this like triple or this double Sarad pack snap with the Dynamancer pack that also has Sarads in it. That's a very dangerous pull as well. Just having just the sheer amount of tank damage that causes is insane. Method NA, just a little bit cleaner of a run. They have like one less death, and then the weird shenanigans with the Sky Screamer that you actually saw at the end for Method EU ended up costing them the match. Method NA, though, has a great run and really is showing why they can actually compete versus Method EU.